Make the ground shake.
What's up everyone, in the next few videos I will be taking a look at the new British tank destroyers that will be added into the game in 2.1. So yep, the 183's finally made it into the game. So what I'm planning to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the tank destroyer previews into 3 parts. So the first part for this video is going to be I'm going to be looking at the tier 2 to 4 tanks. In part 2 it's going to be the tier 5 to 7 tanks, and in part 3 it's going to be the tier 8 to 10 tanks. So that's how I'm going to do it, and yeah, let's get started. Okay, so kicking things off at tier 2 we have the Universal Carrier 2-pounder. Well, this is basically the tier 2 tank destroyer. It has 230 hit points at 10mm of armor frontally, 7 at the sides and rear, which is absolutely awful. And yeah, so it's gonna have no armor. It can be HE'd, but it can be one-shotted by the T-18 with its derp gun. It can be penetrated by any HE shell. So yeah, that's not a great thing. Universal Carrier doesn't have the armor. It definitely has the speed to go with it. I mean, this thing can do 48 kilometers an hour, and it's got a 100 horsepower engine, which is pretty insane because this thing weighs 4.84 tons, which is very light. Also got a pretty good traverse speed of 37 degrees a second, so you won't be circled by many lights or mediums unless you do something horribly wrong. Alright, so the Universal Carrier 2 gets a selection of 2 6-pounder guns and a 2-pounder gun. So this is the top 6-pounder gun, 9.57 rounds a minute, 57mm of penetration with AP. And you'll notice that it gets premium AP as AP is its premium ammunition. So it's got 22mm of penetration with the premium AP and 15mm of penetration with HE, and its average damage is 90, which is actually pretty good. I'd say I don't really know much about tier 2 because I don't play it much, but the accuracy is bad. It's just bad. The aim time, however, isn't actually that bad, so yeah. Basically with this tank I'm kind of getting the picture that you're supposed to just kind of stay back second line and just support your teammates, because you have really no armor. You shouldn't be going forward at all. You've got hopefully you've got the penetration to go through most of it tier 2, and well, yeah, that's how I think you should play it. Alright, so up next at tier 3 we have the Valentine ATT. Now this thing, I mean, compared to the Universal Carrier, is pretty different. The most notable difference is the fact that it loses almost half of its top speed compared to the Universal Carrier. So yeah, let's take a look at its stats. Alright, so it's got 270 health, 60mm of armor all around. By all around I really mean just the bottom part of the hull. I mean, the superstructure itself is paper. I mean, the thing carrying the gun is literally paper. The hull itself is 60mm of the side, so you can angle that and hope they don't aim at your gun shield. Or the rear is pretty bad as well. It's just literally the bottom part that is the 60mm thick. Valentine ATT also gets a pretty interesting selection of guns, top guns I mean. So this is the derp option for those of you out there who love the derps. You get a 3.7-inch AT Howitzer. It's got 4 rounds a minute. That's a really long reload, but faster than the TA2. It's got 25mm of HE penetration, 110mm of heat penetration, and the average damage with HE is 330. Whilst the heat damage is 220, so the accuracy is also awful as you'd expect, and as is the aiming time actually isn't that bad, but it's on the lower side, so it's not great. The second option you have is basically just a normal top gun. It's a 6-pounder, and it has 12.24 rounds a minute, which is really good. It's got 110mm of penetration, which again is also really good. 180 with premium ammo, which you will never ever need because you're only going to be facing tier 5 with 4s at most. And the average damage is 90 with AP and APCR and 100 with the HE, so it's really hard to actually pick which gun to go for until you've actually had a feel of both of the guns. So I honestly probably just go for the Derp because it's kind of more fun, I guess. But it's a really hard choice. So I mean, the 6-pounder is actually really good as well, but yeah, it's just a hard choice. The accuracy is just a mediocre 0.35, while the aiming time is really good, and it's 2 seconds. So this thing will be aimed as soon as it's ready to fire the next shot because of how good that aiming time is. So finally, at tier 4, we have the Elector. So basically, what the British TDs so far have been like: speed, no armor, and then a bit of armor, and no speed. And the Elector is basically going back to the speed and no armor thing. I think this is basically just the T82 at tier 4. It's very fast. It's got a derp gun that it can use, which is really good. So let's take a look at the stats then. So the Elector has 430 hit points, which is standard for a tier 4 tank destroyer. It's got 10mm of armor all around, so anything and everything will penetrate you, even with HE. The maneuverability is amazing. I mean, it weighs 6.47 tons. It's got 180 horsepower engine, so you know it will be reaching that 51km top speed very quickly. As was the case with the Universal Carrier 2-pounder, it will be very hard to circle you because you have a very good traverse, well, not very good, but a very good traverse speed of 35 degrees a second. So the Elector also has two interesting choices of guns. It gets a 25-pounder derp, which has 5.71 rounds a minute. It's got AP rounds, so it's got 71mm of penetration with its normal AP rounds, and it's got premium AP rounds as well, which get 92mm of penetration. And the high explosive penetration is 44, average damage is 210 with the AP and 300 with the HE. Accuracy actually isn't that bad for a derp gun, 0.46. I mean, I think you'd expect like 0.5 on a derp gun like this, and it's got an amazing 2.2 second aiming time. I mean, that's actually amazing, and even more so for a derp gun, so that's pretty good. And let's take a look at the other gun. So this is a 3.7-inch AT Howitzer. It's your typical derp gun that you'd expect. It's got 5.45 rounds a minute. It's got terrible HE penetration of 25, and that heat penetration is really good, 110mm. Its average damage is 330. With the HE and with the heat it's 220, and the accuracy is 0.49, which is pretty bad, but still pretty decent for a derp gun, and the aim time is 2.5, which again isn't bad for a derp gun. You may be asking which one of those two guns you should use, and I'd honestly go for the other derp gun, the 25-pounder, because it's got much better HE penetration, only for a loss of like 20 or 30 damage, and it gets AP rounds, which it can use as well. So it's got also a much better aim time, better rate of fire, so I'd honestly just go for the 25-pounder, which is a good gun. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I know there wasn't much gameplay in this, but that's because the bots I have to go against are tier 6 and 7, so it's pretty worthless trying to do gameplays of these tanks. But anyway, subscribe if you're new, leave a like if you enjoyed, thanks for watching, and bye.